there, church family and internet friends. I'm Lauren Adkins, the Director of Youth Ministry at Shady Grove United Methodist Church in Short Pump. And today I want to bring you a message about how I'm feeling hopeful and looking forward to making some healthy steps in 2021. And when I sat down to think about, some goals that I would have for myself, maybe for my physical health or my mental health, or even my spiritual health in 2021, I started to think about, what are some areas that I needed to work on in my life? And that's a really deeply personal thing to think about, maybe some things where you have a deficit and you need to make some changes to move forward in a positive direction. And so the number one thing I was thinking about is that you need to take it one step at a time. And it reminded me of this quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He says, "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." And so I think after we've come off this really hard year in 2020 and everything's been so odd and crazy, and we think about maybe starting fresh and starting new in 2021, it would be really tempting to want to change everything super fast and to dive in the deep end and make some really big changes right away. And I actually think that that's not gonna be what I'm gonna do, and that I wouldn't be very successful if I did that. So I decided, think about in January what might be really possible to do. And I don't know about you, but I've put on a little bit of holiday weight, so I want to try to lose a few pounds in January. But it's also my birthday, so I don't want to cut out sugar, but I can cut out some dairy. Dairy isn't always terribly good for me, so in January I'm gonna cut out dairy, and that's gonna be my first step. And then maybe in February, I'll cut out some sugar, and then, so on and so forth. So, that's just an idea of taking 1 month at a time and thinking about setting some positive goals or making a positive step in my physical health. And maybe you have some steps or some goals that you could take one step at a time, chunk it up in little bits, and do something like that in January, and then in February, and then in March. And then by the time the end of 2021 rolls around, you've made 12 positive changes. So that's my plan. I would encourage you to do something like that. But when I was thinking about doing all this with God, I was thinking about how is this going to make my faith stronger? How am I going to be partnering with God to do this? In what ways do I need to surrender some things to God to make myself successful with this, or so that it'll be easier, etc. And I thought, well, God's been part of this whole thing with me, thinking about places where, I could have some change in my life. God was part of that decision with me, and thinking about maybe a positive first step to take. God was part of that decision with me. And so it actually reminded me of this psalm. I'm going to read to you now. Just the first section of Psalm 139. "Lord, you have examined me. You know me. You know when I sit down and when I stand up. Even from far away, you comprehend my plans. You study my traveling and resting. You are thoroughly familiar with all my ways. There isn't a word on my tongue, Lord, that you don't already know completely. You surround me front and back. You put your hand on me. That kind of knowledge is too much for me. It's so high above me that I can't fathom it." And so when I think about trying to be successful with making a positive step in my physical health or my mental health or my spiritual health in 2021 or any time, I got to a place where I recognize God is part of all of this with me. God knows that there are some places where I need to shine some light and make some healthy choices and make some changes. And God will be there with me on the hard days when I really wanted to have a cheat day, or I really want to eat something maybe that's not super healthy for me, because God is with me all the time through everything. And it's so hard to comprehend that sometimes. It's so hard to remember that when we're trying to make positive steps, and maybe we feel like we're taking one step forward and we have to take 2 steps back, and then 1 step forward again, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. God is there the whole time. In the psalm it says, "You surround me front and back. You put your hand on me." Now go back to the Martin Luther King step where he says, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. If you know that a loving God is in front of you and behind you, He's anticipating your every step. He knows your every move and your every thought. He knows the desires of your heart. He will be there to catch you. even when it's hard, even when you give up the sugar, even when you say you're gonna run 3 miles 4 days a week, even when you are gonna do a Bible challenge, God will be with you all through that time. So my prayer for you is that you recognize the blessing in the challenge that we've experienced in 2020, and that you continue to look for the blessing in the challenges in 2021. All right, I miss you, I care for you, and I'm praying for you. Bye.